Math 5130. This is the instructional video to demonstrate how to create discussion forum, or I guess answer discussion forum post number 1. It's kind of weird that I want you to directly plagiarize from me. Usually plagiarism's bad. I want you to follow my example to a T. I'm going to demonstrate this with one data set for your discussion forum post number 1, which is submitted through Blackboard. You'll have a different data set, but you'll follow this same format. You will write you will write descriptive, you will write statistic, and then when you get to the sample size, and again, I'm getting ready to demonstrate this with StatCrunch and with R. So again, you'll write the mean age, it's the standard deviation of the whatever the subject cases are, and then you'll change this number to the. So anyway, I want you to follow this very, very much the same. The reason is, one of the goals of this class is to prepare you to write up statistical results, and presenting the descriptive statistics for your sample is an important part. Now let me show you the data set that I'm using here. It's actually titled Math 5130 data set number 1. And this is actually a data set that I worked with occupational therapy a few years ago on a grant. It was called a fall status grant. And they had some different metrics that they used, but I've collapsed this data set down to only include 4 variables. Variable number 1 is the age, fall status. They either reported a fall or they reported no fall. Steady AM is exactly what the variable indicates. Do they feel steady in the morning? And this particular subject right here, if we read left to right, all that information pertains to that subject, that patient. So they are 68 years old. They have not reported a fall. They do not feel steady in the morning. And then there was another metric where they had a reaction time. And I forget exactly how this was measured, but it's quantitative. And I think the reaction was in maybe seconds. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So what I want to demonstrate to you is if this was the data for your capstone project in your program, how would you present the descriptive statistics? And again, I'm going to give you another data set with a different set of variables, and you're going to submit this for discussion forum post number 1 for your grade. So the first thing that I would want to do is, if I'm using StatCrunch, is I have to get this data into StatCrunch. So it turns out that's really easy to do. If we just go to StatCrunch and visit the website, and I am probably just going to open StatCrunch. There's multiple ways to do this. So if I go to data and load data from a file on my computer, and it's located on my desktop, and if you see on my desktop, that's the data set right there. And StatCrunch is pretty cool that it handles multiple types of files, .csv, Excel, Notepad, I do believe. But I always work with .csv because it works best with R. So you can see that I have the data loaded. All I have to do now is just upload it into StatCrunch. And again, read left to right. You can see that we have our cases, and up and down we have our variables. Age, ID is kind of a variable, so that's something we're going to analyze. Age, fall status, steady AM, and react. So the first thing we have to do is look at our sample size. We want to report the sample size of 244, so I can come down to the very bottom. There's another way to do this, but and I can see that I have 244 subjects. So I would report that, and then I would go directly into the descriptive statistics for my quantitative variables. So what I do down in the table is I report the mean, median, range, Q1, Q3 for both quantitative variables. And in the narrative, I just highlight a couple of things. I don't want to get into describing the table completely. I just want to pull out a couple of important characteristics and describe them in the narrative. So to find all this stuff should be pretty clear. We just go to stat, we go to summary stat, we go to column. And again, this is for quantitative variables that we're describing. And I'm going to pop age and react over. And then I'm going to come down and start choosing what I want. So I could get in, which is the sample size. Looks like I want the mean, the standard deviation, the median, the range. Let's see, the min, the max, Q1, and Q3. I believe that's all that yeah, that'll work. So you can see here that I have these values, and so I've just typed it in. The mean was 80.44, which I get right there. The standard deviation was 8.06, which I reported right here. Now, in health sciences, we don't find this as much in statistics, but in health sciences, the way they typically report the mean and standard deviation is the mean plus or minus the standard deviation. I find that a little weird, but I've worked so closely with so many different studies in health sciences. I see that quite often. Now, as soon as I tell you that, you're going to go find a journal article, and you're going to say, well, they didn't report it that way. I would tell you if you turned 100 statisticians loose on describing this data set for publication, you would get 100 different presentations. This is just mine. But it happens to be important to you because I'm your professor and I'm assigning your grade. That's ugly to say, but it's true. Mean reaction, so we come down to reaction, 6.92, standard deviation, 3.39. Outliers, we'll do that in just a second. Then I come down to the mean, plus or minus. The median, of course, is 81.5. It's 6 for the react time. The range, I don't necessarily just put the range of like 35. What I like to do is just put the range from the lowest number, 62, up to the highest number, which is 97, and do that for both both quantitative variables. Okay, and then I report Q3 and Q1. Q1 and Q3. Sorry, it's early and I'm on my first cup of coffee, and that's just whatever. So we get the measurements there. So the quantitative measurements are the numerical summaries for the quantitative variables are pretty easy. The next thing I do is I take a look at the box plot. So we've seen that before. Where is it? There we go. So I take a box plot for both variables, and I want outliers. So I can hit compute, and I can see that for react there are a couple of outliers. You can see 17 and 16.25, which I have reported right here, and there are no outliers for age. Now these really aren't comparable, so they shouldn't be listed on the same graph. They should be listed separately. Okay, so the next thing I do is I transition into describing the categorical variables. And the categorical variables here are fall status and the way that they feel, whether they feel steady or not in the morning. So to do that, as we've seen before, we just go to table and go to frequency. And so I need to grab my categorical variables, and I want the frequency and the relative frequency. And you can see what I did with this is I included it briefly in the narrative. So I said, you know, the purpose of the study was to talk about falling. So for falling at least once, we have 102 right there. And the proportion was 41.8%, which I reported right there. And then I shift gears to the once patients who reported not feeling steady. So that was 155, and the frequency 63.5. And then I included histograms for both variables, both quantitative variables. And really, that's for the, let me regroup here. That should actually be up here because these are the quantitative variables. So down here, I've shifted gears to the categorical. All right. So the histograms that I created were created through R, but as we've seen before, it's very easy to create a histogram in StackCrunch. I should do these separately. Let's do age first. Now, if I want to grab this one, and notice this is kind of interesting. Notice that the histogram for age created by StackCrunch is different than the histogram for age created with R. That's why it is very important to tell the reader the statistical software to provide a citation of the statistical software that you have used to analyze your data. It chooses different bins. We run from, looks like from 60 to 65, and looks like this runs from 60 to 62.5, and then 62.5 to, you know, so anyway. But we could go in and change that if we wanted to. But if I was going to use this and I wanted to embed that picture, that graph into this document, I would just highlight it, and I would go options, I think, and just copy. And I think I have to go Control C. And then I would come over to my document and just copy paste. My bad. Now I would just copy paste and then resize to make it, you know, fit in the document wherever. Okay, so you'll be required to do that stuff from time to time. But let's just, for the heck of it, let's grab a histogram for React and see how that works. And, you know, again, it's off a little bit. You can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 bins up to 5, and over here we have 1, 2.5 up to 5. So you get a little bit different histogram, but that's okay. Again, just report the statistical software package that you are using. So gang, that's it. The next thing, again, for the fall status, I would report up here. I just report the focus, you know, and the focus of the study was falling and not feeling steady in the morning, so I highlighted that in the narrative. But then once I get down into the table, I actually report both. And if there were any missing data or anything, you would report that here as well. And we'll talk later in the class about how to handle missing data. It can be quite frustrating, and a lot of different approaches that you see out there. And I'll just share with you the approach that I take. So again, for your assignment, discussion forum post, you'll just go into this document and enter the numbers as you calculate those. All right. Now, if I was going to do this in R, so here's my data set. Don't really need this again. So as we've seen before, I would name my data something. And and .csv quotation, and then again, it's tricky to drag that where it's smack dab in the center. I would go ahead and do a semicolon and attach my data, and then I would go to head of data. You can see that I have the same data set, but head just displays the first 6 cases in our data set. So here, I would probably, I would go summary of age. And notice that age is all caps. If I just do age there, it's not going to run the summary because it doesn't know AGEE all case. This data set knows age all caps. So there we get the first quartile, third quartile, and all the descriptive statistics that we get that I've reported over here. You could do the same thing for React. And then for the descriptive statistics for the categorical variables, remember we have to create a table. So I'm just going to call this table fall. And then I'm going to create a table for just steady. And it's just a process in R that we have to do to get the proportions and counts. So I could just do table fall, and I can see that I get 142 and 102, or I can do table steady, and I can see I get 155 and 89. To do the prop table of table fall, I see that I get 58% and 41%, which has been reported right here. Again, you'll notice consistency, and that's something I'm going to require of you, or I'm going to take off points. Percentages should be rounded to 1 decimal, or 1 place after the decimal point, and descriptive statistic measures should be rounded to the hundredths. So be consistent on that, or you'll get dinged with me taking off points. In terms of a histogram, I can go histogram, for example, of age. And then it's really kind of cool. I just go up and go edit, copy. And then I come to the place in the document where I want to paste that, and I just go Control V, and there I have it. And I can resize it again to just make it fit into wherever I want it to fit. All right, so gang, it's as easy as that. Statistics does not have to be hard. And my goal is always to make things as easy as they can be. And you know, it's in a lot of it, maybe I'm a lazy grader. I could just turn you all loose and say, hey, write up the descriptive statistics for this data set, these 4 variables. And I'd get, you know, if I have 30 students, I'd have 30 different assignments submitted, and it'd be crazy to grade. And then I would provide corrective feedback, and then you would resubmit it. And I'm just more of an approach to it. Let's just tell you what I want you to do, and then you can follow the directions, follow the example, and just do it. All right. So I hope this helps. Video went a little longer than what I expected or planned, but hey, it's early in the morning. I'm still on my first cup of coffee, and so here we are. All right, take care.